raise them up. Bring the fight. Boats hit the floor and the night it ignites. Steel in our veins, yeah, we live for the fight. Dust on our throats and a spark in our chest. We don't back down, we don't second guess. Katie's got the fire, lighting up the flame. Lacey swings hard, yeah, we're carving our name. From the gutter to the stage, from the bar to the sky. We're the voice you hear when the weak don't try. We're that drum, feel it pounding your bone. No kids here, we take our own thrones. Hey, raise the crew, let them hear the sound. Hey, from the ashes we're burning it down. Hey, no retreat, no fear, no excuse. We are the roar, we are the Tuesday Crew.
Pins in the air and the chaos grows. Stories get loud where the wild wind blows. With scars and grit, yeah, we paid our dues. Now we're kicking in doors with nothing to lose.
Voices collide like a runaway train. Laugh through the struggle, dance through the pain. If you're standing with us, then you already know. We don't follow lines, we just steal the show. Feel that fire ripping straight through your chest. This ain't a game, it's a war cry test. Hey, raise the crew, let them hear the sound. Hey, from the ashes we're burning it down. Hey, no retreat, no fear, no excuse. We are the roar, we are the Tuesday Crew. Call them in, call them home. Through the fire, through the storm. We don't break, we reload. We don't kneel, we explode. Raise the crew, let them hear the sound. Hey, from the ashes we're burning it down. Hey, no retreat, no fear, no excuse. We are the roar, we are the Tuesday Crew. Day Crew, Tuesday Crew. Day Crew, Tuesday Crew.
And good evening, Misfit Nation. In case you didn't notice, that was a Tuesday Crew entry come on because the Tuesday Crew is hosting tonight's show. Got a great one for you tonight, and just want to wish everybody out there, just hope you're having a good day. It was a hot one today if you're in the Midwest or the South. It was definitely hot out there. Stay cool, stay hydrated, and do all that good stuff. And don't work too hard because, you know, you don't want to get sick. You don't want to get down. You want to be able to charge on that next day. And tonight, we have a great show coming at you. And we're glad you're here because this conversation that we're going to have tonight has the potential to save lives. Our guest is Leah Stiles. She's a retired United States Navy senior chief, founder and CEO of Seaways. She's a national speaker, advocate, best-selling author of Battle Scars and Body Wars. And after serving our nation for more than 20 years, she took one of the most painful chapters of her life and transformed it into a mission of hope, education, and action. Tonight, we're talking about a topic that too often remains hidden in plain sight: eating disorders in the military and the veteran community. It's a conversation that intersects with leadership, resilience, mental health, and suicide prevention. Leah reminds us that eating disorder prevention isn't just about awareness, it can literally save lives. If you've served in the military or have a loved one that served, work in healthcare, lead people, or simply believe no one should struggle in silence, this conversation is for you. Leah's message is one that every one of us can carry beyond tonight. Need a light? Be a light. Now, before we dive in, help us reach someone who may need this conversation tonight. I need you to like this stream, get on there, tell us where you're watching from in the comments, share this broadcast with your friends, family, veterans groups, and military communities, and tag someone who inspires others by being a light. Don't forget to subscribe to the Misfit Nation so you never miss a conversation that will educate, inspire, and empower. And you never know whose life that you may change by just clicking share. Now, without any further ado, let's welcome Leah Stiles. Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, all right. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. It's Friday Eve.
It is Friday Eve. I love Friday Eve, you know, and once it's Friday, there's only 2 more working days left till Monday.
Then we get to do it all over again.
That's right. That's right. Well, Leah, I told a little bit about you in the introduction there, and why don't you just start from wherever you want to start and bring us up to how we got here today.
Okay. Well, thank you for that introduction and for having me on tonight. Um, Always appreciate an opportunity to have a real good, honest conversation. Um, so yeah, you talked about I served in the Navy. I served for 20 years. I also served as a military spouse that entire time too. And then when he and I retired on the very same day, we have also passed the torch to our son, who's active duty, and he's serving now. So lots of Navy in the family, and we kind of go all the way back. And I also served the entire time with an eating disorder. I had been diagnosed with my eating disorder when I was 11. I thought that I was in recovery when it came time to join the Navy. I thought that I was fine and everything was going to be fine. And I quickly learned that it wasn't, and I wasn't. And so I really kind of navigated through my service. The first 10 years, I was really, really secretive and quiet about it. But I was also observing a lot. And so I recognized whenever there was, mental health fairs or conversations, or whenever there was other conversations around this, eating disorders were always kind of left out. And I used to drop little breadcrumbs with my shipmates or with my leadership to see how they kind of handled some of those breadcrumbs, because I thought, if I ever have to tell somebody, who would I tell? And so I would test it out a little bit. And I kind of always found that it was awkward. There's a lot of shame, stigma, taboo. It was a really difficult place to have that conversation. And I used to always think that somebody else was going to start some kind of organization or program or script. I really always hoped that somebody else would start something, and then I would get really disappointed each year after year, decade after decade, and there was no place. And so when I did retire and I kind of reflected back on my story, and I was complaining to a mentor, and any good mentor, after you complain, will ask you what the solutions could be, because we can't just complain without solutions. And so I named a few, I was like, well, there should be an organization. There's more than 75,000 veteran service organizations. How come none of them are eating disorders? And, there should be screening. There should be these things. There should be prevention. There should be education. And then he said, if not you, then who? I didn't like that answer.
Not at first, but then I can, I took an hour or so today and looked around the internet, and UNC waves are all over the place out there.
We
And there's
are.
articles. There's articles. You've written a book, and yeah, you did it. You took the reins and said, "Let's go do this," and you did it.
We're still doing it. We're still doing it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
You're
and
okay.
we
Yeah,
can't do it alone. So, if there's people that are out there and you've been looking for an organization to get involved with, or this inspires you, or you know of a place that we should be speaking at or teaching at, or anything like that, we're always growing. Our Sea Waves family and our team, and yeah, it's a big mountain to climb, right? I feel like day to day, I feel like I'm kind of putting band-aids on bullet holes to fix like immediate issues, and
hmm
there's a lot of work that has to be done for long-term like systematic issues, so it's always kind of balancing that out. But you're right, we have covered a lot of ground in 3 years. 3 years, just Sea Waves just had our 3-year anniversary on 7-Eleven. So we're 3 years
Nice.
old, and I am really proud of. It's not lost on me how many organizations close in the first 2 to 3 years. So this was a big milestone that we're really excited about, and we have some really big initiatives coming out in the next few months and over the next year that I think are going to do exactly what we said, is really fill that gap. There's a big gap in even just talking about eating disorders. we
hmm
we've come a long way as a military community talking about mental health. We've come a long way. Like, we always joke on different branches. The siblings, we joke on different branches, but I always say that the one thing that we all have in common when we're in a room, no matter what branch we are, combat or non-combat, green or blue, no matter what we are, one thing that unites all of us is we are sick of losing our brothers and sisters.
Yes.
We don't want to do that no more.
Yes.
Um,
And you can scream that to the rafters. That
exactly.
yes.
We pick on each other, but we come together when we know like what matters. And so the point that I wish that I could scream from every rooftop is that approximately 1/3 of our veterans, about 30% of our veterans, are struggling with an eating disorder. And if we keep this shame and stigma, it makes it really, eating disorders in itself are really isolating, right?
hmm
It's hard to talk about it. And when we, go to talk about it, if our peers or our leaders haven't like tried to educate themselves just a little bit, they don't know the things that they say that could be harmful, or they don't know how to connect you to resources, or you don't know how to access care. It makes it that much harder. So we can't expect to move the needle on how many of our brothers and sisters we're losing if we don't acknowledge the mental health illness that has the second highest mortality rate of all of them.
Yes. And now I got a couple questions, real quick here. Okay. You talk about the shame and the stigma with it. Now, is that because, and I think that they're starting to do it with PTS. They have dropped the disorder from. They have dropped disorder from it.
Mhm.
Is there any other thing that instead of calling it an eating disorder, that and I know there's other words for it and stuff, but is that part of the shame that people are like, okay, there's something wrong with me? And I know the services, they're probably all the same. uh, I know my time in the army, especially when I was a younger troop, if I was a little overweight when it come time to weigh in, and it was like, and this was in the 80s, so it's been a while ago, but you were called fat ass, and everybody called you fat ass, and usually that stuck until you left the unit, or that person left the unit, or whatever. And yeah, that's just
Yeah, I think
like you
that's
were saying
part of it.
before. That's the way it was.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that is part of the shame. Is like some of the language that we use, and like I said, we're kind of rough on each other, like siblings are, and so we say things, and I don't think we've always put a lot of thought around stuff that we've said. Like I know in the Navy, if you don't make the height weight standards or weigh-ins, then you do the FEP program, the fitness enhancement program, but it's still on many bases and in many places being called the Fat Boy program.
Yes.
Just nonchalantly,
Yeah.
that's what it's called. And then and there's still bases and places where they email out who's failed, and sometimes they even email out what your weight is, and how much you failed by, and there's a lot of stigma around it, right? And on one hand, you and I were chatting a little bit earlier, and we talked about the Military Times article that came out, and the people that cared about me, that contacted me, and they were like, Leah, you don't want to go in the comments. We don't want you to go in the comments. Like, if you care about yourself, we love you. Don't go in the comments. But I was like, I want to go in the comments. I want to know what people are saying and misunderstanding, because that's where the shame comes from.
Yes.
Part of it is misunderstanding. People don't know what this is, and they equate it back maybe to what they saw in the 80s on the Lifetime channel or the 90s on a talk show, or and they kind of equate it to that, and they don't know what it is today, and they don't know the things that they're saying is probably causing harm. I would imagine most of us wouldn't say those things if we knew the harm that it was causing. And so, like, when I got in the comments, we, like, especially the active duty side, we're really protective around what those standards mean and what we think they mean. And a lot of people are really surprised to find out that these standards were derived from BMI. And BMI was created in the late 1800s. So there's a plethora of reasons why a body today may not meet those standards, even though standards are important. And in the military, that's we live by that. Like, that's professionalism. We stick by that. And I want to be super clear. I am not saying the military shouldn't have standards. I'm not even saying that we should relax the standards. That's not the hill that I'm going to die on. But I am saying that we need to be concerned how people are meeting those standards. It shouldn't just be green check in the box plus, hey, pass, move on. If they're having to do extreme things to their body, you talked about how normal it is to just, for people to just go to water and coffee the week before, or whatever it is that's been passed down time after time after time. And it's like, it's been normalized, and we just kind of accepted it, and it's hard to really kind of draw the line of, like, there's a whole bunch of reasons why a body wouldn't meet those standards. It could be after they've had a child. It could be just genetics, ethnicities that have different shaped bodies. Over time things have changed, and it hasn't always caught up. So that was the big thing that I saw in the comments, that people were really like, well, we need a strong, fit, ready, like, force. And I agree, we need a strong, fit, ready force. I don't agree that meeting those standards automatically equals a strong, fit, ready force, especially if there are people, for one reason or another, athletic, whatever the reason, if they're having to take extreme measures to shrink their body to meet that, then we need to think about what the other impacts are. Because what that does, when you're having to do anything to kind of like lessen your intake to shrink your body, it's really easy for the body to go into what we call low energy availability. So this is super easy for the body to do this. It happens really often when people are trying to intentionally lose weight. But the impacts of that are things like delayed decision making, brain fog, delayed recovery after injury. So there's other things that would impact us from being a strong, ready force that we're going to end up dealing with by not approaching this with the right way, and with some preventative care, and with the important knowledge and information that we need to know to get to that strong, fight, ready force, if that makes sense.
Yes, and you talk about different things that people do and everything like that. I I had a soldier once that was, and she was a supply. She was a supply clerk, good soldier, and she she had trouble maintaining her weight and tape, and got her on the program and everything. And oh, within about 2 months, she had lost weight. She was doing good at PT, energetic and everything like that. Well, about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks later, we had a unit urinalysis, and her trick was cocaine. So, and
Yeah, we get pretty desperate, and I think
it,
that we've
it,
all
it
like,
just it
yeah,
just forces people to do things that they normally wouldn't do. And uh, yeah,
and I think
but
that when you said that, Jake, when you said like, you know, picture story, I bet you all of us listening in, especially us veterans listening in, somebody else pictured another person throughout their career that they witnessed that. They witnessed, if not themselves, somebody else doing this every time it came up for weigh-ins. It was crazy and routine, and it's so intriguing to me, the things that have been passed down from leaders and like the same um tips and tricks that I was told in 2001, when I joined, they're still being passed down. I mean, the cabbage soup diet, the apple diet, I just got a message before we went live from like one of my very first supervisors in the Navy, and she was like, hey, I'm gonna watch the podcast. And I immediately went back to like a memory that I had with her in the galley, and we challenged our whole department for as long as we could to eat nothing that wasn't derived from apples, applesauce,
oh,
apple juice, apple. Yeah, you should have seen when the command master chief walked in and saw like 40 apple cores in the trash, and he was like, somebody's going to tell me what's going on. And it was just like this challenge that nobody saw a problem with, and that we all did. And and that's been like repeated in so many times. I see in like the Facebook groups, the leadership groups, there's people that are like, hey, I'm coming back after having a baby, I'm breastfeeding, I'm not going to fit my pre-maternity uniforms, and I can't afford to buy new ones. What do I do? And the best, well-intentioned, because we never want to leave a shipmate behind. We don't
yeah.
want anybody to fail. So we're going to tell them anything and everything we've ever heard of that you should try. Drink magnesium citrate, take laxatives, and then go sit in the sauna. Wrap yourself in hemorrhoid cream and plastic wrap and trash bags. And we just normalize this. And we got to stop. We got to stop doing that.
Yes, because yeah, these fad diets, up and down weight, and all that does is destroy your body, and it's not good for your organs. It's definitely not good for your liver,
Or
and
your brain or your cognitive
you
function.
know, yeah, and
Yeah.
I need all the help I can get in that department. So
Yeah, but I do want to be clear. I want to clear something up because I've seen this misconception, when I've talked before. Doing those things, we'll call them disordered behaviors. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have an eating disorder or that you've developed an eating disorder. That's not an automatic. And um, you know, people often have asked me like, do you feel like the military has, caused your eating disorder? First of all, no, I had it long before I joined the military. And second of all, no. And we have to be aware of the way that these different factors kind of layer on top of each other that create that perfect storm. So when things do develop, if we've been normalizing other things, we're not going to be proactive on calling it out. We're not going to recognize it as a red flag. So, you brought up, I don't know what the Army version of shipmate is. Your shipmate, we're going to call your shipmate that went turned to cocaine. Well, we know in the military there's a zero drug tolerance. So a lot of the times that's going to kind of stop there. And then we do a lot of education and prevention around alcohol. What's next for coping mechanisms? So if you're doing these things to either shrink your body or because it makes you feel in control of things around you, maybe you've left home for the first time, or you haven't developed other coping mechanisms, your frontal lobe hasn't developed, all these things, your support system has changed. So you start doing these things, and then we throw in a little bit of trauma, who knows, maybe some military sexual trauma, all these other things and layers. And now this becomes the perfect storm. And then
Yes.
when we don't have any standardization, so we have, especially the Navy, we know that the Navy has programs for alcoholism. Not all branches have it. And we know the Navy has that like memorized, right? We don't have that for eating disorders, right? And when somebody goes to their leadership and they say, oh, I have an eating disorder, or they go to behavioral health, or I'm afraid I have an eating disorder, what's
Mhm.
the process? Most of the time, they don't even know what screening to give. They don't know how to find, they're scrambling, Googling how to screen. I remember when I went to behavioral health and I was like, I need an eating disorder therapist. And they found me somebody that was trauma qualified. And she was like, I've never done this. And my appointment started the first 15 minutes of every appointment. We would Google how to treat eating disorders together. There was nobody on the base or anywhere around that was qualified in this. And she said it, but she was like, but this is the best I can do. And so we don't have any of those systems and programs in place around this the way we do for something like alcoholism.
Well, maybe you with Sea Waves can get the message out there and get it started.
That's
And
what we're hoping
yeah,
for.
and get that now. I kind of want to shift it because, like I said, I read that story in the Military Times, and it didn't sound like it at first. But your command master chief had your back.
100%.
Even though he had you medevaced off the ship, but then you said as soon as the ship docked, coming to see you in the hospital was the first thing that he did.
Sure did.
That he picked the hard right over the easy wrong, and
He did.
Yeah.
He did. And it saved my life. And I didn't make it easy on him at all. Oh, I was mad. I was spitting nails. I thought of everything. To try to get to stay. I didn't want to leave my military family on deployment. That feels terrible. And I didn't have the words to explain to them why. So now they're just all lining the P-way, crying, like not wanting me to leave. And I don't want to leave. I'm crying. And I didn't have the words. Sea Waves was a year old before I was able to say the words, I had an eating disorder. I couldn't say those words. You should have seen me tap dancing around trying to run a company without adding that sentence in there. I tried everything. But you're right. There was a lot of leaders before him that I faced. And I really struggled with kind of like, figuring that out. And so, we talked about how secretive like eating disorders are, and that's different for me because I'm a really honest, transparent person. I'm a sharer. I share, but I couldn't and I wouldn't share that. And I'm really like, I'm not into the whole like lying thing, but I would tell lies around my eating disorder. That feels so to say, but I would. And so 50% of my time of that 30 years, right? Any given day, not like the first 50% and the last, like at any given moment or day, part of me was hiding it and very secretive and manipulative. And the other 50%, I really was just hoping somebody would ask me one more question and be able and willing to help, to just know and just, hey, why aren't you eating? And I would say, I'm intermittent fasting, which was a half truth, a half lie. If they'd asked one more question, they might have found out it wasn't 8 hours, it was 8 days. And I'm dehydrated and I'm weak and I'm dizzy. And I just like, if somebody would ask me how long, I think I would tell the truth right now. And it went that far. That was my 17-year mark.
Mhm.
When I finally met him. And the reason why he even knew was because I wanted to go to that carrier so bad. Now that I'm retired, I have a rule: no dream ships if it's not a cruise ship. But that was my dream ship, that aircraft carrier. No more dream ships. It's not a cruise, but that was my dream ship. And they flagged my medical record because I had a ruptured esophagus from 7 years earlier.
Mhm.
And so he saw what that was, and he knew what that was right away. And they flagged it, and they wouldn't let me come. And I was like, no. So I requested an appointment with the triad, and I marched onto the ship. It was at dock, and I asked to speak with them. XO and CO were busy. Also, two of the finest leaders I've ever worked for, but they were busy, thank goodness, because I had a lot to say. Spitfire. And so I met him, and he was a former corpsman. He was a doctor, and he had somebody that he loved that had navigated eating disorders before, so he knew all of the layers that came in there, and he also knew what I was using to cover it up: my big smile and one hell of a work ethic. So
Mhm.
I went there to go sell him. First of all, I cracked a bunch of jokes because we're in the Chiefs mess. So that's what I do. And I'm like, let me warm him up with just a few jokes, which that was pretty funny. So that helped. And, and then the next layer was like the medical side. And he was like, so what you're not going to do is use your work ethic to cover this. He was like, I'm going to approve you to come here, and my rules, my ship, my rules. You don't purge on my ship. When I say we're having this meal together, we're having this meal together. You're going to get your labs done every 2 weeks. And so he really just set the rules. And when I said yes, I feel like I truly meant it. I feel like
Mhm.
I wanted that. He set the tone. I was like, I can do that. But my answer to not purge on the ship was to not eat on the ship, which is fine when you go home. And then I would try to eat with my family, and then I would purge
Mhm.
eating with my family. I was addicted to that part of it too. It's like
Mhm.
if I felt like I wanted to eat with other people, to me, the stopwatch started and I had 30 minutes to get it out. And I would go through paranoia. Like, try seeing me at a restaurant when they delay the check. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I got 30 minutes to do this. So when the ship would pull back in and back out, the longer we would go out to sea, the harder it was for me to continue to do this. And he called it. He called it a couple times. He gave me a few fair warnings, and he was like, it's not looking good. Your labs aren't, like, this is not it. And then when he finally pulled it, I felt like everything came crashing down.
Well, I tell you what, though, looking back, uh, he probably did the best thing he could do for you.
Yeah. And it was the same guy, though, that I was complaining to about starting Sea Waves. And he said, if not you, then who? But then he said, Leah, you're never going to be able to really make a difference in this as long as you're keeping this a secret. And that hit me hard too. I'm like, why is he always holding me accountable? Gosh. And dangerous combination. I had my cell phone on social media in one hand and a cup of wine in the other. And I was like, I'll show him. And I posted like my confession, I guess, across all of my platforms, like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And I'm a former media person, so I know what we don't post on social media. But I put it all on there, and I was like, it's been 30 years. I've lied to a lot of people, and I'm really sorry. And here's the truth: I've had an eating disorder this whole time. And what came from that is really what spurred me knowing that this had to happen. Was people started reaching out, and of course they were like really sweet, and they're like, oh, Leah, you should have told us. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but you wouldn't have known what to say, and I wouldn't have known what to say, and then that's awkward. But really what hit me was the other people that were like, I've been through something similar, or my sister, or my shipmate, or my brother, my mother, my uncle. Everybody like started coming to me with these stories. And then there were like people that were just so bravely telling me their story. And then they would be like, oh, so many of the conversations led to a similar place where they'd take this deep breath and they'd say, okay, I said it. So now what? And I was like, there really isn't a now what? Like, there's no place for me to say. There's no place. I don't know what to, I don't know what to tell you. And right before that, I had still tried through the VA. I needed to go again. I needed to go back into inpatient. But TRICARE
Mhm.
doesn't pay for inpatient or residential if you're over the age of 21. And so there was no place that could take me, and it never happened. We never found a place for me to go back in residential after I was out. And
Wow.
so I almost died again. I was literally living because my neighbor and my husband was putting drops of chicken broth under my tongue while I was in the bed. I lived for months like that. And so then I was like, we can't, as a senior chief, as a mom, as an advocate, a mental health advocate, I can't not have a now what as an answer. We got to come up with
Mhm.
it. So sea waves is the now what.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I did some reading about it. You're doing some wonderful things. And speaking of wonderful things, we had some wonderful listeners who have asked us a few questions. Thank you, producer. Uh, from Carolina 45. If someone thinks a loved one may be struggling with an eating disorder, how should they start that conversation?
Oh, I love this question, and that's a really good question. So let me say first, privately, um, it doesn't have to be on the mess decks or, well, she said loved ones. So, but find some time alone. Um, Also, we kind of talked about how like defensive eating disorders kind of are by nature. So you want to be really careful to not like point like you're losing weight, you're doing things. You can start with like I feel concerned about some things that I would love to talk to you about. Like I feel concerns. Can we talk about
Hmm.
it? And then the next question, I would love everybody to like write it down or just kind of like put a like little bookmark on it because we need to normalize this question. Are you struggling with your relationship with food or your relationship with your body? Are you struggling? And I think like we normalize saying, "Are you struggling to sleep?"
Hmm.
And we know if they say, "Yes, I'm struggling to sleep," that there's some things that they need some resources, some support, and that's okay. We're like, "Oh, I get it," right? Same thing. Are you struggling with your relationship with food or your relationship with your body? And I think that that is what you want to listen for next. Chances they could say no or why do you ask or get a little bit defensive, but know that you've kind of planted that seed as a safe place. Like, I'm able to talk about this, I'm willing to talk about this, and then I would follow it up with something really honest, like, I'm starting to learn a little bit more about that, and I can help look into some stuff with you,
Hmm.
or like, I don't know anything about it, but I heard this woman on a podcast one time, and she told me about two resources that I'm gonna get for us, and we're gonna go back and look at that now. I think she even had a book somewhere, like maybe we read that or something. And be really honest, like, and it might take a little bit more of like building some trust to get there.
Hmm.
But I think that like we really need to go back to those two questions, like one and a half questions.
Yeah, and you spoke about those questions. I went to the VA, or I went to I had to go for a evaluation at the VA, and the only thing they asked, they said, did you eat this week? I'm like, yeah. Did you eat today? Yeah. And then he had, what'd you have for supper last night? And that's all they asked me. And yeah, it was just kind of weird that they was asking me. But yeah, that's just
That's better than
uh,
what some places are doing because
oh
there's
yeah.
a lot of places that aren't even getting that on the list. So I felt mixed feelings hearing that. Hearing that, on one hand, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really glad they're asking at all, and let's ask a little bit more. Then, like, great start. Let's keep going."
Yes. Okay, we got another one here from Papa Jock, why do so many military members wait years before asking for help? Very good question, Papa Jock. Thank you.
Very good question. So I'll answer it first on the broad mental health level. We, first of all, we're not really good at checking our own engine light, right? When it's on. We don't want to be
Yep.
the weakest link. We don't want to miss out on anything. We don't want to, miss career opportunities. We don't want to hold a team back. We don't, that. Then there is the stigma around it of like, oh, I don't want a diagnosis. I don't want people to talk about me. I don't want a title, So that I think is universal against like all like mental health struggles. I think the eating disorder specific part of like waiting, so long to ask help, it's a couple things that we kind of started talking about in the beginning of just like they might not have a whole name for it or know the name for it. They might not know what their struggling is that. And if they do, and then they go talk to a leader or provider and, neither of them have any experience or kind of dug in, it's one of those things like if you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. And we can't assume that all providers know. Like if providers haven't gone to take that extra specialty of this, then a lot of them don't want to touch it at all because there's a lot to it, right? And so they either don't touch it or they don't know, or they've dedicated their lives to making this their specialty. So I think it's like those layers of like, okay, now I've kind of figured out this is a struggle. Where can I go with it? Who can I trust with it? Like me with those breadcrumbs. I'm like, I know I'm struggling. Where do I go and who do I talk to? So I think it's kind of that too. And there are career repercussions. Like currently right now, there is an executive order that says eating disorders are non-compatible with military service. So there was a lot of people that were seeking therapy and treatment and were doing really good and they were healing. And when that executive order came out, they're like, I'm not going to see mental health and have that in my record. Like, I'm not going to say anything to get that label there. And again, it kind of goes back to there's no further guidance beyond that. It's just one sentence. So commanders don't know, okay, if they're diagnosed, they got to be out in a year, or like alcoholism. Okay, they're diagnosed. They get 3 treatment failures before we have that conversation of maybe the military's not right for you. Maybe you're not right for the military. You know that one. But we don't have a system like that for eating disorders. So again, service members are going to be like, I don't want to lose everything for this, especially me at my 17-year mark as a senior chief. I was like, I don't want this to impact. I didn't want it to be an issue. I didn't want it to.
Maybe it's time for you. Maybe it's time for you to go to the Hill and talk about this.
I'm ready. Put me in, coach.
Hey, I tell you what, you get with your senator and your congressman and say, hey, this needs to be addressed.
Well, the last 3 chapters in the book, Battle Scars and Body Wars, the last 3 chapters are about policies, systems, and policies. And, a lot of times, because I do a lot of advocacy in DC, and a lot of times when we talk about this, they say, well, it's going to cost a lot of people and money to get a system in place. Where are we going to get the money from? So I made a whole chapter on what is it costing us by not putting prevention in place?
Yes.
And it's not just money. It's lives, but it's both. But I put the money in there too, right? And missed hours and missed treatment. So my first day of inpatient treatment, I walked in and where you kind of like meet the group, tall redhead with a beard walks up to me and he goes, "Sorry you're here, sis, but I'm happy you're here, sis." And he said, "Sis," and I was like, "Is he a chief? Like, there's a chief at the Eating Disorder Treatment Center?" He was a master chief. He was an active duty master chief that got pulled off the submarine, active submarine. Now they're without their senior enlisted leader because he's got to go to treatment. All the nuke, all the nuke bubble training schools and all that brilliance in his brain is sitting in a treatment center, not being used. So that costs time, money, people, readiness. This is a readiness issue. So I tried to really quantify that and put that in here of what it's costing us by not going to the boot camps and the A schools and the command fitness leader schools, and just telling the chaplains, this is what it's costing us. And yeah, it's money, time, and lives.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Got a few more questions. This next question's for me, so I will take it. Lacey, this is from Salvatourism. Lacey, what happened to Rich? Is he okay? He said something about Studio South and then nothing. Well, I will let you know that Rich is fine. Matter of fact, he is popping questions up for us right now. He was traveling today and could not be on here, but I guarantee you will see him Sunday, and he is fine. And I will let him just tell his story and what he's doing in Studio South. Okay. From Laganoid to Devil, has the military made progress in recognizing eating disorder, or is there still a long way to go? I think that you kind of addressed that one already, but go ahead.
No.
Yeah,
that's the answer. No, we've not made progress. We've not made progress. We got that one sentence, and then that caused even just a little bit more confusion. So no, not yet. And I don't want that to be discouraging. I feel uneasy with that answer, unfortunately. I guess I could say I am hopeful that we're gonna get there. But I feel like it's a big system. It's a big system to kind of like
yes,
get in front of. And I do think that there's like individuals in different places and in different bases, even at the VAs. There's individuals at different places, and like half of the VAs have started their own eating disorder program, 50% of them. And so, and even at different places, there are, registered dietitians and nutritionists that have gone and done this education about this. Of course, we've trained a few different bases and commands, and, we're always looking and trying to train a few more. It's only 2 hours, and fit it in your safety stand down, and we'll just give you the basic knowledge of how to do no harm. And there's really nothing hopeful or significant that we've seen just yet.
And one more from Gain More You Learn. What resources are available for veterans and military families who don't know where to turn?
I love this question too, because I'm a resource hoarder. I love providing resources, because take what you need, leave the rest, pass them on, whatever you'd like. So I'll plug the C-Waves website. Now we're working really hard to get a brand new website up. Should be close, but still, the resource page on the C-Waves website lists everything that I have vetted myself, and that's free for our military community. So all of our resources are completely free to active duty veterans, family members, National Guard, reservists, whether you served before 9/11 or after, and regardless of type of discharge. All of our services are free. So come to C-Waves. If you're not ready to, chat or talk or reach out, check out the stuff on the resource page. And if you want to know more or get a specific resource, and I am a meet you where you are kind of person. If you want a book or a podcast, we'll give you that. If you want a support group, we'll give you that. If you need to be in a hospital and you're like, I don't know how to get this paid for, we walk through all of that. We try to get it paid for. And I'm a resourceful type person. So we walk through trying to move any hurdles and barriers to wherever you are. Even if you come to us and you're like, I just wanted to pet horses and do equine therapy. All right, I'll find you that too. So come on, we'll kind of connect like where you are to what you need. All completely confidential.
Okay. All right. And got another one that popped in from Lewis Was Wrong. Your organization's motto is "Need a light, be a light." What does that mean in practical terms? And how can someone watching tonight become that light for another person? Great question, Lewis was wrong.
Perfect question. And this is always the one I end on. So they must have seen us coming to the end of the. I feel like that's somebody that's watched another Sea Waves podcast before, Leah's podcast. Okay, so I say need a light, be a light with two different punctuations. The first one is with a question mark. Need a light, question mark, be a light. So be the person you needed when you were in the dark. Did you need an intrusive leader? Did you need somebody to ask one more question? Do that. Did you need a mom figure? Did you need a shipmate? Whatever it is you were needing, try to become that for somebody else. The other thing is with a semicolon. So we know the semicolon means your story doesn't end here. So need a light, meaning you're in the dark. We all see dark days. We all see them. But your story doesn't end here. Also, try to be a light in some way for others. And before you know it, you'll kind of find that it's illuminated your path. Being a light, starting Sea Waves is, and pouring my heart into Sea Waves is exactly the thing that I needed to find recovery. It lit my way to recovery. And now I can't relapse. I'm the CEO of Sea Waves. So by doing it for others, I found what I needed, right? And so to answer your question, how can we be a light for others? What we're trying to do more at as Sea Waves is the buddy check. I'm sure that you've heard of the veteran, I got your 6 buddy check, but what kind of happens with that? Like when we do it, we reach out to a buddy and we're like, how are you? And they're like, good. And they're like, how are you? And you're like, okay. And then awkward. And like, okay, awkward. What we want to do is do a beacon buddy check. Reach out and say, how's your light today? Are you bright and sunny and feeling good? Are you a little bit cloudy, like it's not murky, it's a little bit in the dark? Are you in the dark? Do you need some of my light? Do I gotta come there with a flashlight? Like what?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? So I would empower that. And then I saw the little flash there of like, follow our socials on social media. And not just because hey, we want followers, because we give tips there all the time. We give prompts, we give resources, we give education. Like our marketing team, chef's kiss to them. They pour their hearts out and work around the clock and are really intentional. So we can go there too. Share something, share a story, start a conversation.
All right. Start that conversation because, it might be the one that someone needs. Got another question from Jesse. Now, Jerome, if you could change one thing about how our military talks about mental health, what would it be?
I think it would be to approach it in the same way that we approach our physical health. When you break your foot, you go to the doctor and we give you a little time for your foot to heal, and we don't blame you for breaking your foot or any of those things. So physical health and mental health, it's one of those things that like we need to approach it the same and with the same amount of like removing the shame and the kind of like the guilt around it. And honestly, like if I was being super optimistic, like if you gave me a magic wand, I would say to like encourage it. Like some of my best mentors, if you've never seen the book The Bipolar General, seeing that book, seeing a general tell his story about being bipolar gave me the courage to write my book. And it's really cool because he wrote not the forward, but he wrote an early recommendation in my book. And then I was at an event and I found the general that wrote the forward in his book, and I'm like, this is how this ripple has come through. So leaders, let's normalize it. Stop putting on your calendar that you're going to your kid's school. If you're going to therapy, put therapy on your calendar. That's okay. That's good. Set the example. Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Yeah. Set the example. Be the example. All right. Well, hey, Misfit Nation, get back to my notes here. The book is Battle Scars and Body Wars. And where can that book be found, Leah?
It's on Amazon.
Okay. Now, if I don't want to give Amazon any money, can I order it off the Seaways website?
You can, and that one will come to you signed by me with a little special bookmark.
Whoa!
And it's a tax write-off.
All right. All right. So, hey, everybody, if you want the book, go to Seaways and you can order the book from there. Oh, look at this. Our producer is on the ball tonight. This is the website.
Yeah.
And I would imagine there is a contact us tab on Seaways where if somebody wants to reach out and ask you a specific question or reach out for help, they can do that, correct?
Exactly. Go to the very bottom and you'll see our contact us there. There we go. That's our contact us. Now, if scroll down just a little bit more, the new website you see right there, need help now, this form that's kind of hidden under send a message. So that contact form will reach us. If you are needing help soon, like help, not just wanting to ask about volunteering or setting up a training or a keynote, you want to hit that form. The new website, it's going to be a lot easier to find. This is why we need a new one. But that right there is how you're going to get to us.
All right. Well, that is amazing. Well, we know how to reach you. We know that you wrote this awesome book. And how long did it take you to write the book?
About 2 to 3 years.
Okay. All right. All right.
Because I went through and got like a lot of doctors to put like medical information that I wasn't qualified to write. And I went through a lot of processes.
All right. Well, hey, that's, you don't want to be throwing out false information. And not that you would put out false information, but, you did your work, had the accredited people add to it. And, that's the way to go with that. Now, we've had some good questions tonight, but, and we thank the Misfit Nation for sending those in. Are you ready for some hard ones now?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to go through some favorite 90s movie.
Was Pretty Woman in the 90s?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay. We'll go with that. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Star Wars, Star Trek?
Neither.
Okay, that's good. Tea or coffee?
Say again?
Tea or coffee?
Coffee every day.
All right. Number one road trip playlist song.
Oh gosh. I do Disney songs on road trips. The whole playlist.
Okay.
Disney.
Okay.
I can't picture some of those.
All right. Well, hey, that's all the questions that I have for you. And I just want to tell the Misfit Nation out there, thank you for joining us this evening. It has been a pleasure. Great show. And hey, Misfit Nation, if you're out there, you're feeling a little down, you don't feel like that you need to be here tomorrow, do something for me. Pick up that phone, dial 988, take option 1 if you're a veteran, and somebody will get you the help that you need, because tomorrow is going to be too beautiful of a day to not have you in it. And if you don't want to dial that number, reach out to us. Stephen at themisfitnation.com, Jake at themisfitnation.com, or info at themisfitnation.com. Drop your name and number in there, and one of us will get in touch with you. And Misfit Nation, we love you. Leah, thank you so much. Your story is pretty amazing. It is. And thank you for all the good work that you're doing out there. And if you write another book, if you get to Capitol Hill and make big changes, contact us. We'll have you on again to answer those questions.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Misfit Nation, we love you. We will see you next time.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation Show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.